All right, so we are looking here today as a continuation of what we were studying before the long break, and we're looking at the 7 things the Lord hates. That's found in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 16 through 19, and we'll just review very quickly. But tonight we're going to look specifically at the heart that devises wicked plans, which fits quite well with what Chad was just talking about, as Jesus focuses on the heart there in Matthew chapter 5, and he demonstrates that what goes on in the heart really matters. All right. Let's see. In Proverbs 6, in verses 16 through 19, it says, "These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren." And we've looked before at how all of these ideas are tied together. The pride leads to lying, which leads to shedding innocent blood. And of course, devising wicked plans is connected in all of that, in the heart, and the feet that are swift in running to evil, and the false witness, and the sowing of discord among brethren. All those things are tied together. And so we saw that he kind of goes down the body as he looks at the various parts there until you get to the last 2, which are the false witness who speaks lies and one who sows discord among brethren. But all these other things are connected with that idea. But tonight we're looking at this idea of the one that devises wicked plans in his heart. And we want to just start with this idea that sin comes from the heart. We don't have to spend much time on it, as Chad has just been talking about it. But here in Matthew 15, in verses 18 through 19, Jesus says, "But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile a man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies." Jesus says that comes from the heart. These things don't just come for no reason. They don't just happen when you have a good heart. You have to have something wrong in your heart for these things to come out in your words or in your actions. In Matthew chapter 12, in verse 34 and 35, Jesus says, "Brood of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things." Jesus is making the point that whatever you have stored up in your heart is what you're going to bring out. Whatever is on the inside is what you're going to bring out to the outside. It's going to come out of your mouth. It's going to come in your actions. And so you're not going to have a good heart and be doing evil things, and you're not going to have an evil heart and be doing good things. You can certainly trick some people into thinking you're doing good things, but really in the end, evil people are doing evil things, and they're using their deception to get what they want. All right, so we need to make sure what we're storing up in our heart is what is good, so that is what will come out in our lives. Because those that have evil in their heart, devising evil plans, thinking of things, desiring to do evil, that is an abomination to God. And this is one that Chad talked about earlier, so we won't spend time on this. But Jesus says, even those that look on a woman to lust for her have already committed adultery with her in their hearts. And so, the heart is what God is looking at. And so in Proverbs 4, verse 23, we're told, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. The way that we live is going to be based on our heart. And so it's up to us to keep our heart, to make sure that our heart is pure, that it is right, that what we think on, what we meditate on is good, that we're not filling ourselves with the worldly things, the satanic things, really, that Satan wants us to fill our minds and our hearts with, but that we are filling our minds and our hearts with the things that are good in life, the things that God approves of, the things that are holy and good, so that when it comes out of our heart, these issues of life spring from our heart, it will be good things coming out. One thing that we need to make sure that we understand is that God knows the heart. We may be able to fool other people around us for some time, as we may think evil thoughts, but we control ourselves. Well, these people would not approve if I talked about that, or these people would not appreciate it if I did that thing, and so I don't want to get into trouble when I'm around Christians. So I know how to behave when I'm around Christians, so we can fool people for some time, but you will never, ever fool God. He knows the heart. In Proverbs 15, verse 11, it says, hell and destruction are before the Lord, so how much more the hearts of the sons of men? These things that nobody can look into, but God can, they're just open before God. Well, certainly he can see into the hearts of the sons of men. In Proverbs 17, verse 3, it says, the refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the hearts. So as these refining pots or furnaces, they melt the metals at different temperatures. So if it's not pure, the impurities come out, and you can see this is not pure. Well, God can see that in our hearts. He knows if our hearts are pure, if we're really dedicated to Him, or if we're just pretending. And really our heart is bent on evil, if that's where we're taking our pleasure. In Psalm 7 and verse 9, he says, oh, let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end, but establish the just, for the righteous God tests the hearts and minds. God knows what you're thinking. He knows what you have stored in your heart. And so we need to realize that and make sure that we know what is in there, that it is good. In Luke 16, verse 15, Jesus says to them, you are those who justify yourselves before men, but God knows your hearts. For what is highly esteemed among men is an abomination in the sight of God. So we can make other people think very highly of us, and yet we may be an abomination in the sight of God, because He knows what is in the heart. So let's make sure that we have what is good in our heart. In Psalm 66, David, I believe this is David, Anyway, he says, if I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear, talking about his prayer. And so he's making the point that, God doesn't listen to the prayers of those who have evil thoughts, evil in their heart. He doesn't just listen to our words, he listens to our hearts as well. All right, so when we talk about wicked plans, the heart that makes wicked plans, the wicked plans are always going to involve the harm of others. And we may think, well, not all sin harms other people, but actually it does. All sin actually harms other people, whether we intend for that to happen or not. when Eve ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and Adam did as well, they had no desire to harm anyone. And yet all of us were harmed because of that. We now have no access to the tree of life. There's pain in childbirth. All of those things are a result of that sin. You don't know what result your sin is going to bear out for other people. But just understand that when you make wicked plans, even though you may think it's only something that, maybe it hurts you because of your relationship with God. Maybe you realize that, but you may think, well, at least it doesn't hurt other people, but it does. Every sin is going to hurt other people as well. But in this idea of these evil plans hurting other people, we see in Zechariah chapter 7, verses 9 through 11, where he says, "Thus says the Lord God of hosts, execute true justice, show mercy and compassion, every one to his brother. Do not oppress the widow or the fatherless, the alien or the poor. Let none of you plan evil in his heart against his brother." But they refused to heed, shrugged their shoulders, and stopped their ears so that they could not hear. So here God is saying, don't plan evil in your heart against your brother. Don't oppress the widow and the fatherless. Don't oppress the alien or the poor. Show mercy and compassion. But when you're planning evil in your hearts, you're focused on yourself. Maybe you don't even realize what you're doing to other people, but you are oppressing them. You are damaging other people, and your plan is against your brother. But so many don't listen to God when he gives this warning. They just stop up their ears so that they cannot hear. They just want to do what they want to do. In Psalm 10, verse 2 and 3, it says, "The wicked in his pride persecutes the poor. Let them be caught in the plots which they have devised. For the wicked boasts of his heart's desire. He blesses the greedy and renounces the Lord." So here's this wicked person who has this evil desire in his heart. He has a plot that he has developed in his pride. That's another one of the things that the Lord hates. These things are connected together. Well, it's his pride that causes him to persecute the poor. He doesn't view that as a bad thing, really, because in his pride, he thinks he deserves whatever he can get. These other people are lesser people than him, so why should he bother with what they want? If they're keeping him from his desire, then he can just do whatever it takes to get what he wants. And that is how many people in this life think. Whatever it takes to get what I want, I'm going to look out for number one. And so they make these evil plans. They may not realize that it's evil, but certainly if it is not in accordance with what God has taught us and how we treat other people, how we think about other people, then it is evil planning that we do. In Proverbs 6, verse 14, it says, "Perversity is in his heart. He devises evil continually. He sows discord." So this is one of the main things that evil plans do, is to cause discord or disagreement and conflict between people. Of course, that is generally done through lies or through slander, which we'll look at in a moment. But yes, that is something that really is a very common thing, and that's one of the damaging things that those who devise evil plans do. And so wicked plans do generally involve lying and slander, and bribery goes along with that quite often as well. In Isaiah 32, verse 7, it says, "Also the schemes of the schemer are evil. He devises wicked plans to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speak justice." So here the way he's destroying the poor or oppressing them is through lying words. He may justify that to himself. Well, I'm not doing anything to them, but lying about them or lying to convince them of something or whatever it may be is damaging people. Lies damage people. And so we need to make sure if we have any plans that involve us lying, just realize God hates that. You're an abomination to him. The thing you are planning, the heart that you have, is an abomination to him. Do not plan lying words. They will destroy people. In Psalm 140, in verses 1 through 3, David says, "Deliver me, O Lord, from evil men. Preserve me from violent men who plan evil things in their hearts. They continually gather together for war. They sharpen their tongues like a serpent. The poison of asps is under their lips." And so he says they're planning these evil things in their hearts. He calls them violent men, and yet the weapon that they're using is their tongues and their lips. Their words are the weapons that they use to carry out their evil plans. We won't read all of this, but in Psalm 64, he uses very similar language there about sharpening their tongue like a sword and shooting their arrows, which are bitter words. And then down in verse 8, he says, he will make them stumble over their own tongue. All who see them shall flee away. So God is going to punish these people, but the weapon that they're using is their tongue. In Psalm 31, verse 13, he talks about slander is how they are scheming to take away his life. And so also we find that in this scheming, these evil plans, bribery is often a part of it. All right. But the wicked heart can never succeed. In Proverbs 19, verse 21, it says, "There are many plans in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the Lord's counsel, that will stand." Make sure you're listening to the Lord's counsel. In Proverbs 26, verse 23, fervent lips with a wicked heart are like earthenware covered with silver dross. It looks kind of like silver, looks kind of like, this is a valuable thing, but really it's just worthless. You can fool people with your fervent lips and what you say when you're around them, but if you have a wicked heart, you're worthless in the eyes of God. In Proverbs 28, verse 26, "He who trusts in his own heart is a fool, but whoever walks wisely will be delivered." In Matthew 5:8, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." We must be pure in heart. We'll just go past those because of time. But in conclusion, sin comes from the heart, and when we make wicked plans in our heart, we're planning to harm somebody else. The only way to do good for people is by doing good. Wicked plans often involve lying and slander, which are part of this whole passage about the things the Lord hates. And when you have haughty eyes or pride, you feel that you deserve whatever you can take from lesser people. So all these things just feel like it's okay, but it's not okay. And so the world is filled with all these types of things, and it's easy to just say, well, the faithful have disappeared from the earth. Everybody has become wicked. But we don't have to be that way. Don't backslide. Don't fake your devotion to God. Don't be worthless on the inside. Only those who are pure in heart can see God. And since God knows your heart, make sure that you purify your heart and don't trust your own heart, but walk wisely in the Lord's counsel.